The bye week is upon us, and the next time we see our Minnesota Vikings, we may have JJ McCarthy on at center. But what does that mean for the Minnesota Vikings offense? Carson Wentz held it down, man. But it's time for JJ. We'll discuss on the UP.
Powered by Riverside FM.
JJ McCarthy is set to return after the bye. What does that mean for the Minnesota Vikings offense going forward? Obviously, the Minnesota Vikings are 3-2. You know, not a bad scenario coming out of the international trips in the first 5 games of the season. I thought 4-1 would be doable. It would put the Vikings in a better situation. 5-0 obviously would be the perfect case scenario, but nonetheless, the Minnesota Vikings are 3-2. But the exciting part about this is JJ McCarthy returning back to this football team. And I think that it is a no-brainer that he returns to QB1 on this football team. Carson Wentz, I would love to shake his hand. He did an admirable job. This is what second string or QB2s are meant to do, come in when you have a major injury to your quarterback and win a few games. I thought Carson Wentz did that. I thought for the most part he was solid. Carson Wentz is a big, tough guy, veteran. I thought it was a great move, great pickup by Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. But now, UP Nation, Purple Gang, Skull Nation, it is time for the JJ McCarthy era. I think the first thing that we have to wish for when it comes to JJ McCarthy is that he doesn't have another setback. He doesn't have enough injury. I want you to think about the quarterbacks that have been drafted with JJ McCarthy. You're talking about the Michael Penix, the Drake Mays, the Caleb Williams, so on and so forth. Quarterbacks that were drafted with JJ McCarthy. And then you can look at the quarterbacks that were drafted after JJ McCarthy. And I'm talking about the perennial guys. I'm not talking about the Ham and Eggers, you know, the Quinn Ewers, guys that you don't expect to play. But I'm talking about the guys that were from day one in the conversation about taking over their specific franchise. All of those guys have gotten minutes. All of those guys have stacked up starts under their belt. You can even look at a guy like Dylan Gabriel, who the Minnesota Vikings just played in London, was his first start. You know, everyone is starting to get those reps. Everyone is starting to put some work together, just stacking work, as KOC likes to say. I think JJ McCarthy, our hope, our wish, UP Nation, Skull Nation, Purple Gang, is that from now on, this is number one, that JJ McCarthy starts to get long-term, consistent reps. Unfortunate that he had the meniscus tear last year, and now he's got the high ankle sprain this year. It's time for JJ McCarthy to get on the field, and it's time for JJ McCarthy to stay on the field. I think for JJ, this is a great mental reset. I think we were asking a lot, and this is just me. I think we were asking a lot his first 2 games. You're talking about a kid that didn't play at all last year. He had some great moments in joint practices and minicamp, but again, I've always been on the side that you can't just give your players that up, especially a rookie, and say, hey, this is all you're going to get. I can see if it was a veteran and not put him into some of those preseason games to get him some reps. But nonetheless, I thought it was a tough task to ask him to come in 2 primetime games right off the bat and to be able to excel. If he would have excelled, then you know you've got something special. But for the most part, when you have like a rookie quarterback like that, you've got to give it an opportunity to develop. More cases than not. That's just what you're going to have to do. So I thought it was a tall task looking at the work that he's got to come in and play well. But now I think the best thing that happened to JJ McCarthy, and this is funny to say, but that he got his high ankle sprain, because now he got to take a step back. He got to decompress a little bit, take a deep breath, and then he had an opportunity now that he's been playing to watch a veteran do it. And I know some people look at last year and say, well, he had a vet in Sam Darnold. The difference in that scenario, in my opinion, number one, JJ is practicing. Number one, he's getting the same reps in terms of technique and fundamentals that the whole quarterback is the whole quarterback room is getting in practice. So last year he was kind of removed from that. So I think that makes a difference. Comparing Carson Wentz to Sam Darnold, I think Carson Wentz was a former MVP candidate. You can look at up until last year, Sam Darnold was not that. So I think you're going to get a different type of experience, a different type of leadership. And so I think, especially during these crucial times where JJ can look back and analyze, say, hey, man, I didn't play well the game against the Bears. I didn't play well, the game against the Atlanta Falcons. And I'm talking about holistically. I know against the Bears, he had that moment in the fourth quarter. Hell, he was NFC Offensive Player of the Week. So, but for 3 quarters, he just didn't play well. He just didn't play well there. So now, you have a situation where he's around, he's in practice, he gets a chance to bend Carson Wentz's ear. I thought it was very telling that KOC during his press conference yesterday talked about getting the ball out of the quarterback's hands, looking at your check downs. Sometimes a pass just to get the offense rolling is something that you need to take in it. And to me, that spoke of maybe he felt like JJ McCarthy was holding the ball too long or was always looking for that home run ball. Keep in mind, man, JJ McCarthy hasn't had a lot of adversity in his football career. He's won at a high level wherever he's gone. So dealing with losing and dealing with a lot of adversity, it is going to take a while for JJ McCarthy to get acclimated to that and be able to come back from that. This is going to be the big test. This is going to be the big test for JJ McCarthy. Now adversity hit. Now he's got to be able to come back from that, possibly against the Philadelphia Eagles. And I think it should be the Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously, I'm not in their medical tent or on their medical team. But, man, a high ankle sprain, he's already missed 3 games. He's got a bye built in. So he's got 2 weeks now where he can heal up again before he faces the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't see why having a high ankle sprain should be able to keep him out any longer, because then if you don't bring him back for the Philadelphia Eagles, now the conversation comes in, do you bring him back for the Chargers game off a short week? So I think the goal has to be JJ against Philadelphia. And I know it's tempting for the whole Carson Wentz storyline to come back and face his old team as a starter, but I'm kind of looking past that, man. We need JJ McCarthy to be able to come in and start his progression to finish this thing towards the end of the season. How JJ McCarthy changes the offense, man, it's about creative bootlegs that we can run. Carson Wentz is no scrub athletically, but he's slowing down. You got rollouts, you got RPOs. I think KOC needs to look at the first quarter of the play calling that he did for Carson Wentz and continue to implement that for JJ McCarthy. Quick throws, easy throws. And I think when you have especially a young quarterback that has a plethora of options like that, those quick throws, and I know KOC, that's not his bag, and he's probably not happy with that. He's that vertical guy. I think it helps JJ McCarthy build rhythm, man. I think it helps him build rhythm. I think it helps him build confidence. Every complete pass that he throws, every successful pass that he throws, and every pass that leads to a score builds that confidence for JJ McCarthy. So I think that KOC, it will be in his best interest to continue to script something like that, especially early in the games, once you go back to JJ McCarthy, so it helps him to build that confidence. I think the tempo is going to be key. I think you're going to see faster decision-making and more rhythm throws for JJ McCarthy. I would hope that would be something that is built in to what KOC wants to do. See, I think the future is now. And I think, I've heard this from various people, and I know that there are people out there that may want to see Carson Wentz continue as quarterback of this team. But is Carson Wentz going to lead us to the promised land? No, I think he's a very admirable backup quarterback, but I think it's just time for JJ McCarthy, so we definitely have to put the work in. I think you're going to see Justin Jefferson get a lot of open looks off play action. I think JJ McCarthy is a big-time play action quarterback. I think they have to continue to keep JJ McCarthy and Justin Jefferson involved together in whatever offensive scheme that the Minnesota Vikings come up with from week to week. You've got to incorporate Jordan Addison. The timing, the trust with Jordan Addison is going to be huge. Before JJ McCarthy got hurt and before Jordan Addison went on his suspension, man, the chemistry was there. You can see it in the first preseason game, the only preseason game that JJ McCarthy played in. The chemistry was there. You saw it in practices. You saw it in joint practices. I mean, there is something there between JJ McCarthy and Jordan Addison. And I think that is paramount that KOC and those guys try to exploit that relationship. It's only going to help Justin Jefferson, man. The pressure factor is on. Now that JJ is back, for me, there is no excuses. You know, I know that there are going to be some great moments from JJ, and I know that there's going to be some bad moments for JJ. We as fans, we've got to live with some of those bad moments to get JJ to be where he needs to be long term. I think that's going to be huge. If the offense still struggles, fans will look at Kevin O'Connell's play calling. So I think that is why Kevin O'Connell needs to go back. And I think he needs to look at what he did the first quarter and a half of the Cleveland Browns game. I thought it was some of the best play calling that KOC has done since he's been with the Purple. The rhythm was there. It was an attacking offense. It wasn't necessarily vertical, but he knew he had some struggles and some challenges with that offensive line, and the offensive line played well, but Carson Wentz and KOC got the ball out of their hands very quickly, and it gave the Minnesota Vikings a lot of success. And again, you do that against the number one defense in the NFL, man, you've really done something. JJ McCarthy equals Kevin O'Connell's job security. Those two are attached at the hip, and I think you can even throw Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah in there. This project has to work, and it's JJ McCarthy's time. The Philadelphia Eagles should be the game that he comes back. If he gets a full week of practice in next week, I want to see JJ McCarthy under center. This stretch decides whether the competitive rebuild narrative survives or dies, because we have to see a better version of JJ McCarthy than we saw before he got injured. I think that's paramount, even if it's just a little bit of bump, because we've seen, although not always consistent, Carson Wentz is able to put up numbers in the offense, and he's able to move the offense down the field, going 2-1 and put up 350 in the game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So we know that there's options out there. We know that this offense can move. The Minnesota Vikings are only going to get healthier, right? Like, the Vikings are only going to get healthy. The offensive line is going to get more healthy. We're going to get some pieces back on defense after the bye. I am hoping and praying that we get Andrew Van Ginkel back. That is a huge loss to our defense. And you combine that with the loss of Blake Cashman, I'm hoping to at least get those two guys back, because that's going to help in the run stop game. I think the Minnesota Vikings are hurting just because they have missing pieces there. I expect Allen and Hargrave to get out of whatever rut they're in and start producing. Man, these guys can play, and they're not necessarily run stop specialists like a Harrison Phillips was, but these guys should be playing better football. Like, they've got to play football. The amount of money that Kwesi and the Minnesota Vikings have invested in these dudes, they've got to be able to play better football. But now's the time, man. Now's the time. This team is headed in the right direction. I feel it after this win against the Cleveland Browns, because they've got 2 weeks to get healthy, especially at the quarterback spot and other intangible areas that's going to make the Minnesota Vikings a better team. But it is now JJ McCarthy's time. No more missed games if we could help it. No more missed games. He's got to stay on the field for the rest of the season. A lot of that is going to have to do with how healthy the offensive line is and Kevin O'Connell's play calling. Like, if you know your offensive line is depleted, you've got to be a great adjuster, just like you did against Myles Garrett and the Cleveland Browns. Some rollouts, some chipping at the line of scrimmage so Myles Garrett couldn't get that clean look. That is coaching. That is strategic coaching to keep your quarterback fresh. And I think they have to take the same mentality with JJ McCarthy. Protect at all costs, no more missed games. I think that if JJ McCarthy starts getting the minutes and he starts getting the reps, you are going to see a steady improvement from the Philadelphia game all the way to the end of the season. And I'm not saying that it's going to be easy. I'm not saying that it's going to be duckies and bunnies and roses and there won't be challenges and there won't be weeks where JJ McCarthy kind of screws up. But he is our QB1 and I believe in him. They just got to give him the time and we have to smooth out some of those rough patches. So I'm looking forward to the Minnesota Vikings team after the bye because that's going to tell us really what direction this franchise is heading in with JJ McCarthy. And it's just time to see it, man. It's just time to see it. This has been Unconventional Playbook. Again, continue to please hit that like and subscribe button. And as always, we will see you when we see you. It's JJ McCarthy's time. Skol.